We've used wallpaper for many reforms. What types exist and what are their advantages? Where can we use it? Today we talk about wallpaper. Let's start from the very beginning. What is wallpaper? Well, wallpaper is a decorative material that has been used for many years. And, well, it is used basically to enhance the aesthetic appeal of the walls. We can find it in many materials, but in this video I'm going to talk about the ones I've used, so I can speak a little more from my experience. We find many designs, colors, types of wallpaper, and this makes it an excellent option for a quick and elegant change to our room. Types of wallpaper. Well, as I said, there are many types of wallpaper. In this case, we are going to talk about three. The first would be the traditional wallpaper, the one that is paper-based. I haven't used it, although I said I would discuss the ones I have, but I did have to remove it. And this type of paper is quite a hassle, since when you are going to take it out, well, when you put it, I don't think it's complicated. You just put the glue on the back, stick it, and that's it. But when you are going to take it out, being made of paper, it gets destroyed. It's very hard to remove it. You wet it with a sponge and you have to remove it bit by bit. It's quite tricky. Luckily, this paper has evolved quite a bit. Now it is not usually sold based on paper, but rather Trinitrotoluene is sold. Will we talk about it or the vinyl now? But since we're talking about this type of paper, what better than to talk with my grandmother? She has indeed placed it and removed it, so let's see what she thinks. Can you tell me a little bit about what the paper used back then was like? Well, when you were younger, basically, you had to paste the wall and all of this. What was your experience like, both putting it up and taking it down?
In both ways, now it's more modern and faster. Back then, you had to apply glue to the wall, but not all of it. The piece that we were going to put at the moment. Then we had to put the paper on top of one of the table and spread it on the face. And then pick it up carefully. And then we had to put it on the wall, making sure it didn't catch air from top to bottom and very carefully. And removing it was also challenging, as I had to wet it and scrape it repeatedly. On the other hand, the current one, which uses adhesive, is simply put on the wall. Stretch the paper slightly, just like that. You put it up, you lower the paper, you go like this, and you put it so that it doesn't catch air, and it goes, what speed? And clean, and clean.
Have you noticed a big difference between the roll now and the one before, haven't you?
Yes, it's nicer, it's stronger, because back then, the slightest scratch and boom. Oh, be careful with the wallpaper, yes. And now, no, man, currently I'm careful, but it's very different.
I'd say the trickiest part about that paper was removing it. I saw how you did it and it was quite a job.
Man, to remove it, yes. There was a lot of work then to scrape and remove it. That's why in many old houses what they did was put one paper on top of another.
Well, in fact, there were several here, right here. Papers inside. We removed several layers of paper from the closet and found dampness beneath the last layer. Because, of course, with so many layers of paper, the wall doesn't breathe and then, well, the wall ends up getting damp. Did you stack them or not?
No, I regretted doing it, but I know they put it on without removing it. It had to be done.
Well, we'll stick with the current one, right, man?
Yes, the most modern always works better because it learns from past experience. Things are always improving.
Well, as you've seen, it's a bit tricky to get out. So, as I was saying, it has evolved quite a bit. And now we could replace this type of paper with Trinitrotoluene paper, which would mean non-woven fabric. These wallpapers are latest generation and are also called non-woven. They have a high-quality fiber base, joined together without being woven, which provides greater support resistance as it does not form threads. The pattern or design is printed directly on the support. There are different ways to stick this paper, but we will talk about this a little later. The main advantage, unlike traditional ones, is that when we remove them, it comes out in one whole piece so it doesn't get destroyed, as it would happen to us and as it has indeed happened to us. Let's go for the next one, which would be the vinyl paper. We have also used vinyl paper quite a bit. I like it. It also gives a good result. And the main difference with the other one is that basically vinyl wallpapers are composed of a layer of vinyl that usually tends to have a satin finish. Although increasingly you can find them in a matte finish, although it is true that there is not as much variety in matte finish. Its high resistance makes it ideal then to install it in kitchens, bathrooms, or areas where there is quite a bit of friction, such as a hallway, a corner, or even in certain outdoor areas, if it doesn't have, well, a very direct rain and the sun hits it, well, constantly. What this vinyl layer that it has on the top does is protect and waterproof it. Therefore, when it comes to cleaning, it's super simple. When placing it in a kitchen or bathroom, things tend to splash more, and it usually gets more stained. Well, we can clean it easily and without worrying about it getting damaged. It is true that Trinitrotoluene paper can be cleaned with a damp cloth and nothing would happen. But when I went to ask about this paper to put it in a kitchen, they told me that if the stain was very persistent. For example, if you constantly make coffee and splash it every day, then from so much rubbing it could lose a little color or even end up getting damaged. In this case, the ideal would be to use vinyl paper. Apart from the ones mentioned, there are other types of paper, such as text art that are made of fabric, natural fiber papers, or grass cloth wallpaper. Honestly, I don't have much idea what it is, but if you want us to bring it here to the channel, you just have to leave it in the comments and we will try it. Let's see what result it gives. Among the types, I'm going to highlight another one that, although it's not a type because we can find it in these two materials, we can put it in a different section. And those would be the murals. We find murals both in Trinitrotoluene paper and in vinyl paper, and they are basically papers that we overlap one with another. And we create a mural on the wall, leaving, well, a shape, a figure. It can be a forest, it can be a jungle. There really are many murals, they are very beautiful, and it would be as if we filled an entire wall with a painting. I think it's very original, and we did it in our kitchen like this, a little wild with some little plants, very beautiful in black and white. And the truth is that we were very happy. Although later I will explain some disadvantages or little things that you have to take into account when putting wallpaper so that it does not come off the wall. But we will see this in this section of little things to keep in mind. Now let's talk about how we stick them, and each one has a different way of sticking. I have tried 3 ways of sticking, and I am going to talk about what my experience has been and which one I would choose. For the Trinitrotoluene paper, I have stuck it in the most traditional way, which could be to put glue and then stick the paper. We did this for a closet and simply, well, you spread it out, put the paper on it, and it's easy to place. It's not very complicated. I also have to say that by doing it in a very small area, there wasn't the risk of it turning out bad or not fitting. So I don't know if on a very large wall it would be more complicated. If you've had an experience like this, you can leave it in the comments and we can see a little bit too. What is the experience in this case? The next way to stick it would be the self-adhesive paper, in which, well, the glue already comes on the back. Then you start peeling off the back part and sticking it to the wall. It's also very easy to stick. We have indeed used this for large walls, and the truth is that it's very simple. It saves you quite a bit of work because you don't have to apply the glue and then stick it. The paper is quite easy, and the only thing you need to slightly anticipate is that the paper doesn't overlap. That is, you have to be stretching it because the moment it overlaps, the glue comes into contact and it's a bit harder to unstick. But hey, nothing that can't be fixed. Just unstick it a little and glue it back on. It's also a good thing that you can modify it, so if it's getting a little crooked, you just unstick it and glue it back on. Let's say you have this flexibility when it comes to sticking it on and making sure it fits and looks good. This also helps those of us who are a bit more inexperienced in this field and don't constantly put up wallpaper. It's true that it's more difficult than painting a wall psychologically, but it's also worth noting that the result is not the same. And finally, the last method of sticking that I've tried, and the one I'm sticking with, is with water. I was also a bit surprised when I saw it, but I find it very interesting. And that's because the paper has a glue that doesn't work unless it comes into contact with water. That is, we pour water onto the surface and start sticking our paper as it comes into contact with this water. I find it super interesting because you stick it on and you can peel it off exactly like adhesive. Only it seemed to me that when it came to correcting, it was a little bit easier. So imagine we have a little gap left and it hasn't stuck properly. Well, we add a little more water and finish sticking it properly. We simply wipe it with a cloth. That's it. It's very straightforward, and if I had to pick one, this would be my choice. Even though the self-adhesive one is also super easy to place, well, both are quite simple. This was the way to stick the wallpaper, the vinyl paper. I have only come across the self-adhesive form, and it would basically be what we have already explained. We remove the back part and stick it on. And now, things to keep in mind when sticking the paper. And I'm going to explain here my experience with one of the papers we put up, specifically the one in the kitchen, and that is we put up this mural. Super happy. Did it look fantastic? And suddenly one of the corners started to peel off. We glued it back, and after a few days or months, one of the corners started to peel off again. We noticed something unusual was happening, so we discussed it with the brand to investigate further. And it turns out that most papers, whether vinyl or Trinitrotoluene, don't stick well to acrylic or vinyl paints. That is, these paints are very good because they are washable, and while they generate a protective layer, you can put them outside and they are very good. But this type of paint, well, it carries a compound, or I don't know exactly what. But it prevents the wallpaper or vinyl paper from adhering well. So over time, it may stick well at first, but over time, it ends up peeling off a bit. And of course, from its own weight, it ends up doing this and peeling off, well, a large part of the paper that we have already put up. So to avoid what happened to us, well, one of two things. Either you repaint if you don't know what paint you used, or look at the can you used when you painted that room to basically see what type of paint it is, and if it's suitable for sticking wallpaper or vinyl paper on top. Let's talk now about the advantages and disadvantages of each of the papers. The advantages of Trinitrotoluene paper. The first would be the multiple options that we have when it comes to sticking it. As we have already said, we can choose, and so I find this an advantage since we can adapt to whatever suits us best. If the water one suits us better, we can choose the S, and if the self-adhesive one suits us better, then the self-adhesive. On the other hand, the vinyl would not have this option to choose the type of adhesive. It's a pretty resistant paper. Despite our explanations that it may not be totally recommended for kitchens or bathrooms, it withstands wear and tear very well. We have put it inside closets, outside the closet, in short, in various places, and it has held up very well. It's been years, and despite the fact that it can get a little stained and such, you clean it occasionally and it's perfect. The cleaning is very simple, and as we've said, with a damp cloth or a damp sponge, we can clean it and it looks perfect. It allows us to hide, well, imperfections that we have on the wall, whether they are chips or little holes that we've made with the drill to hang a picture, a shelf, some crack, some hit, but I've also found some disadvantages. Firstly, it's not suitable for all areas. And at least I found that there is more variety of Trinitrotoluene paper than vinyl paper. And so, of course, having more options would be perfect for placing in all rooms, but there are some that are a bit more restricted in this case. And well, very related to this disadvantage, we would find the one of humidity. If we place it in a damp place, it will probably end up peeling off over time. Advantages of vinyl paper, precisely. Well, the disadvantage of the previous one, that we can place it in almost all areas, without the fear that as it gets stained every day, well, that it will get spoiled or whatever. Really, this is a great advantage, even well being able to place it in a bathroom. It's easy to stick and peel off to handle. And just like the previous one, it would also allow us to cover any imperfections we have on the wall. Another great advantage of vinyl paper, and that this is not the case with Trinitrotoluene paper, is the fact that we can create corners. Let me explain. We apply the vinyl paper, for example, on the front of a cabinet, and with the dryer, this same paper takes the shape of the corner and we can create it. Let's say the finish is better done. We couldn't do this with Trinitrotoluene paper. So for example, we found that in a cabinet we had to cut the corners and make the corner as best we could. On the other hand, with vinyl paper, we can simply take a hairdryer, bend it, and stick it. We tried it, but we didn't quite get the hang of it. I also have to say, the corner we tried was quite tricky, but I have to try it again because it's been a few years since then. So I'll try to find some and so on to be able to create a well-made corner and see how the result turns out. With a more normal piece of furniture, not the one we used back in the day. As a disadvantage, well, we don't find as many gluing options, and for me, the biggest disadvantage would be that there isn't as much variety. And above all, the finishes, I found a lot of satin ones, but not so much matte, and I, for example, prefer the matte finish over satin. So, here, in terms of choice, we find ourselves a bit more limited. Where can we place the paper? I've placed it in many places, but there's one area I haven't tried and I would love to.